And as well, you have a lot of other different exciting updates, particularly V2 perpetual futures. So can you tell how will V2 perpetual futures differ from V1?
I think the main difference is that it will work. V1, is functional, but there are a number of inefficiencies in the model with V1, particularly around the funding rates, and that just reduces scalability because the funding rates are just not accurate and not sort of representative of what you want. And so I think there are going to be probably three major changes that are going to happen for Perps V2. But the primary one I think that's reducing its usability right now is funding rates, and then probably there's going to be a slightly improved model for the transaction fees, how transaction fees are generated. So all of those things are kind of in production right now, and the implementation is being worked on. So hopefully that's going to be done even before V3.
Okay, let's see. And as well, you mentioned in some of your tweets that every seed project makes mistakes in capital formation. So can you tell what is the right capital formation for the project?
I mean, I've been arguing this for a long time, that if you have legal entities that are, domiciled in various jurisdictions, that you create an attack surface for a DAO, right? And that the optimal path is to have a pure DAO on chain. Now, achieving that is obviously difficult because the tooling is still not there, and there are some risks to that approach. But when you look at the implications for something like Tornado Cash and the OFAC sanctions, it becomes pretty clear that if you're doing anything in DeFi that has a risk of regulatory capture, you need to be as decentralized as you possibly can. And so having even not-for-profit foundations domiciled in Switzerland or wherever you might domicile them is still an attack vector in my mind. So my view is still that the pure DAO approach, the urine style pure DAO approach, and even what we're doing in Synthetix today, where we've deprecated all of our entities and everything is done on chain, I think is a much safer approach if there's any kind of regulatory uncertainty around what your protocol is doing.
Yeah, seems like a right approach. And as well, you mentioned some projects, and you invest as an angel investor too. Can you tell more about that?
Yeah, so I'm an angel investor. I try to work with projects, particularly that are launched on Optimism. So I've now had, I'm actually in the process of my second mentorship cohort. So the first cohort, there were 7 projects. In this one, there are 4. This cohort's slightly different in that one of the requirements is that you had a female co-founder. We wanted a few more women to be involved in this cohort. So we've got 4 new projects. We've launched that a couple of weeks ago. And the point of it is really to encourage more projects to deploy onto Optimism as Optimism native projects.
So all are these DeFi projects, and as well, like they in the Synthetix ecosystem too, or they may be?
They're mainly DeFi projects. They're not as much in the Synthetix ecosystem. We'll see. A couple of the projects in my previous mentorship cohort have now kind of pivoted towards leveraging SUSD and some of the functionality of Synthetix as we've kind of iterated on the models. So I try not to push that sort of stuff too hard. But as you're kind of ideating and working out the best approach, and they see projects like Lyra that have been so successful, and Dailies and other Synthetix ecosystem projects, there is I think a strong case to be made that being part of the Synthetix ecosystem on Optimism is pretty powerful.
And if any projects would like to pitch to you, would like you to be their mentor, how can they reach out to you?
Well, at the moment, the current mentorship program is closed. It runs for like 2 months usually. So I think when we wrap this one up, we'll probably do another call out. So following me on Twitter is one way. If you can get my attention on Twitter, then that's probably the best way to go about getting an investment from me for sure.
Okay, and
It's not easy though. It's not easy to get my attention on Twitter. You need to do something pretty impressive to get my attention. You know, so anything that I see that's cool, you know, in the DeFi space, or you know, a new project's deploying on Optimism, I'll almost always go and check that out. So you know, feel free to show your project in my replies. I'm you know, very open to it, but I have a pretty hard filter as well. So.
Yeah, hard due diligence. And what are your biggest crypto holdings now?
It's literally SNX, basically. That's number one by a long way. I have started to, you know, I sold off a lot of my BTC and ETH over the last like 3 or 4 months during, you know, the crypto crash, because I needed to deleverage. Obviously, Synthetix has this like built-in concept of leverage. So I was in a position where I needed to kind of deleverage my SNX debt, my SUSD debt, which unfortunately, you know, required me to sell down quite a bit of my Bitcoin and ETH. I think I got down to 0 Bitcoin, which is the first time in, I don't even know, like 7 years.
Yeah, not Bitcoin maximalist at all, I see.
I know. Look, I probably had a few BTC floating around in like some random account. So I don't want to say I had 0 Bitcoin, because that's probably not accurate, but I got down to like the majority of my Bitcoin had been sold. So over the last month, I've been working on trying to rebuild that. I've got a lot of early stage projects that that invested in you know, things like Optimism, Lyra, etc. But most of those projects are locked. So in terms of liquid crypto, 99.9% of it or something like that is SNX these days.
Are you not buying back Ethereum just before the merge?
Look, you know, I'm working on trying to rebuild my ETH position. The nice thing about Synthetix is, as the SNX price goes up, you get that leverage back. So, you know, I've been able to mint some more SUSD against my SNX, and I have been slowly, you know, DCAing back into to ETH. So I will rebuild my ETH position. It just might take a few months to do it. So we'll see.
And what about project of your brother, Ethereum?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Illuvium's going really well. I actually talked to Kieran about it today. You know, I think the first round of the open beta was really cool. You know, people were really excited about it. So, you know, we'll see if they're able to actually get the game launched this year. You know, I think that's still the plan, or at least get into beta. But you know, the way that things are looking, you know, from like the early alphas and some of the stuff that they've been releasing, I think the game's going to be pretty fun to play. So I'm excited to play it. So
you as well a big token holder of Ethereum?
I am, yeah. I was a seed investor, but again, I'm locked up. So you know, all my ILV is in the vesting contracts still. So you know, I got to wait a while before I can get any liquidity there.
Okay, I got it. Long-term holder.
Yes, well, yeah, definitely, yeah. If I sold any ILV, my brothers would probably come to my house and and have something to say about it. So I think I'm locked in there for a while.
Yeah, I guess so. And can you share as well some more upcoming plans for Synthetix?
Look, the focus on Synthetix right now is V3. You know, we really need to get the scope of V2X done and then get into V3. A lot of progress has been made, but you still have this distraction of the existing system. So the sooner we can get to a point where we can shut down V2X, the better off we'll be. You know, and as I said, it's getting closer. But even, you know, as we try to wrap that up, you know, wrap V2X up, there are still things that I think, you know, are important, like continuing to optimize atomic swaps, ensuring that, you know, fee generation is very high. I'm actually writing a SIP today to end inflation as well, because a big component of V3 right now is like how we deal with inflation. So if we can remove the concept of inflation before we even get to V3, that will be a significant reduction in effort and make V3 even more likely to be done, you know, sooner rather than later. So that's after I get off this call, that's my plan, is to write up that SIP.
Okay, so wish you a productive work on it. Thank you for sharing your updates with us and such exciting conversation.
My pleasure. Good to chat again.